I used to believe secrets had a certain smell, like cheap perfume clinging to someone else's clothes. But the night I found out about Daniel's secret life, it didn't smell like perfume. It smelled like rain. Because that's what it was doing when my world fell apart, raining so hard that even the sky seemed to know something terrible was about to happen. Daniel was late again. He'd been working overtime, or so he said. Our marriage had fallen into this strange rhythm lately, him leaving early, coming home late, and me pretending not to notice. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Something in my chest wouldn't let me. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights blur through the raindrops. My reflection stared back at me, tired eyes, messy bun, a woman trying to convince herself everything was fine. But deep down, I already knew it was. Then his phone buzzed on the table. I almost didn't look. I wanted to be the kind of wife who trusted. But trust is a fragile thing. It doesn't take much for curiosity to crush it. The screen lit up. No name, just a message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place, red heart. My stomach twisted. Tomorrow was Saturday, his supposed office meeting. I picked up the phone. The chat was filled with heart emojis, hidden plans, and a voice message labeled "for you." My hands shook as I pressed play. Her voice was soft, playful. I miss you already. Don't forget our little secret. My breath caught. The world went silent except for the pounding of my heart. It wasn't just a flirtation, it was real, ongoing. That was the moment I realized the man I'd built a life with had another world where I didn't exist. When he walked in later that night, soaked from the rain, I was sitting on the couch holding his phone. He froze. "Where did you find that?" "Where you left it," I said, my voice colder than I meant. He sighed, dropped his keys, and sat across from me like a man facing a verdict. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, really? And how exactly were you planning for me to find out, Daniel? A family dinner announcement?" He rubbed his face. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." I threw the phone onto the table. "Who is she?" For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said her name. Leela. That name would haunt me for months. I thought I was ready for the truth. I was, because it wasn't just an affair, it was an entire second life. He met her 4 years ago at a business seminar. It started as friendship, he said, then became something more. But something more was an understatement. He had a second apartment, a second life, and a child. I felt my throat close. "You have a child," he nodded, eyes on the floor. "A daughter, she's 3. I slapped him before I could stop myself. The sound echoed through the living room like the shattering of glass. 3 years, Daniel. You've been lying to me for 3 years. He didn't fight back, didn't raise his voice. He just whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." That broke me more than his lies, because it sounded honest. How can someone destroy you so gently? For weeks after that night, I moved through the house like a ghost. The kids knew something was wrong, but I couldn't tell them. How do you explain to your children that their father isn't who they think he is? That every bedtime story and every family trip was built on a lie? He tried to apologize. He texted. He called. But all I could think of was her voice from that message. "I miss you already. Don't forget our little secret." Every word replayed in my head until I started doubting my own memories. Did he smile like that because of her? Was that business trip to Seattle really for work? Was I ever truly loved, or just a chapter in a story he was tired of reading? The neighbors noticed the silence. My sister asked if we were okay. I lied, of course. Because humiliation is worse than heartbreak. It makes you question your own worth. One evening, I finally agreed to meet him. We sat in the same cafe where he'd proposed 15 years ago. I thought I'd cry or yell, but when I saw him, all I felt was empty. He looked tired, older somehow. "I never wanted to live a double life," he said softly. "Then why did you?" I asked. He hesitated. "Because with her I felt like someone else, someone who wasn't drowning in responsibilities, bills, or expectations. She made me feel alive." I stared at him, stunned. "So I made you feel dead?" "No, you made me feel real, but I didn't know how to handle real." I realized then that his betrayal wasn't just about lust. It was about escape. He wasn't running to her, he was running from himself. But knowing that didn't make it hurt any less. That night I packed his clothes into a suitcase and left it by the door. No screaming, no throwing things, just quiet. When he came home and saw it, he didn't argue. He just stood there, eyes wet, and said, "I'm sorry." "I know," I whispered. "But sorry doesn't fix broken trust." As he walked out, the rain started again, like it had the night it all began. Only this time, I didn't watch from the window. I shut the curtains. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's silence. The next morning, I sat on the same sofa, the one where our family used to laugh, where our kids learned to walk, where we built what I thought was forever. And I realized something painful but freeing. My life wasn't over. Just the illusion of it was. Daniel's secret life had destroyed everything I thought I knew, but maybe that was what it took to finally see the truth. The truth that sometimes, losing someone you thought you loved is how you finally find yourself. I thought the story was over. I thought peace meant ending. But peace, I've learned, isn't silence, it's a test. And mine was about to be tested again. It had been almost 5 years since Daniel's betrayal ripped through my life. The dust had long settled. The kids were growing into beautiful, grounded people. Liam was now 17, tall, quiet, protective. Chloe was 13, artistic like her father used to be, but wiser than I ever was at that age. We had rebuilt. Our house felt lighter. Our laughter came easier. And though the past still lived somewhere inside me, it no longer controlled the air I breathed. Until one rainy Thursday evening when Daniel called. The number flashed across my screen like a ghost. I hadn't seen it in over a year. I almost ignored it. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe unfinished grief, made me answer. Sarah. His voice was low, hesitant. It's been a while. Yes, I said simply, it has. I need to see you, he said. It's important. My stomach clenched. Daniel, we don't have anything left to say. It's not about us, he said quickly. It's about her, Leela. I froze. The rain outside beat against the windows, loud enough to swallow my silence. What happened? I asked finally. She's gone, he said quietly. There was an accident last month, a car crash. She didn't make it. For a moment I couldn't speak. The world tilted. Leela gone. The woman who once stood between me and my marriage, the woman I'd eventually come to understand. And Ella, I whispered. She's with me, he said. For now. My heart sank. That little girl, innocent, bright-eyed, the child I'd met in a park years ago, had just lost her mother. I didn't know who else to call, Daniel said. I need help, Sarah. She's only 8. She's lost. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about her, about Leela, about everything that had led us here. Life, it seemed, had found a cruel way to circle back. When Daniel showed up that weekend, Ella clung to his hand like he was the only solid thing left in her world. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was longer, her eyes duller. When she saw me, she whispered, "Hi, Miss Sarah." Something in me broke. I knelt down and hugged her gently. "Hi, sweetheart, you've gotten so big." Smiled weakly. "Mom said you're really nice." I swallowed hard. Your mom was right. That night after Daniel left, I sat with Ella on the couch. She was drawing quietly, carefully. "What are you making?" I asked. "A family picture," she said softly. I looked closer. There were 5 stick figures, me, Liam, Chloe, her, and Daniel. "Do you miss your mom?" I asked. She nodded. "Every day, but Dad says she's in heaven. Do you think that's true?" I hesitated. "I think love never really goes away." "So if that's what heaven is, then yes, she's there." She smiled. "I hope she can see me." Tears stung my eyes. In that moment, I realized something strange but undeniable. I didn't see her as the child of betrayal anymore. I saw her as a little girl who needed love, no matter how she came into this world. Over the next few weeks, Ella began spending more time with us. She blended into our home easily, helping Chloe bake cookies, playing board games with Liam, giggling when the cat jumped on the table. It was bittersweet. Because every time I looked at her, I saw pieces of both Daniel and Leela, and the reminder that our stories, no matter how broken, were still intertwined. One night, Daniel came by to pick her up. He lingered by the door, his eyes tired. "She's happy here," he said quietly. "She's a child," I replied. "She deserves happiness everywhere." He nodded. "You've always been stronger than me, Sarah." "Not stronger," I said, "just forced to be." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know how to do this. I've messed up everything." I looked at him for a long moment. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, I felt pity. "Then start by being a father," I said. "Not to prove something, just because she needs one." Weeks turned into months. Ella became part of our rhythm, school mornings, movie nights, weekend park visits. At first, it was temporary. But as time passed, it felt natural. One evening, as we all sat watching a movie, Chloe whispered, "Mom, can Ella stay forever?" I smiled sadly. "We'll see, honey." But deep down, I already knew the answer. One Sunday, Daniel showed up again, this time looking pale, uneasy. He sat at the table, hands trembling. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I've been diagnosed," he said softly. "Lung cancer, it's late stage." The words fell between us like stones. "I don't have much time left," he continued. "I wanted to make sure Ella's taken care of." I couldn't breathe. The man who once destroyed my world now sat before me, broken, dying. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said, tears in his eyes. "But I'm asking you, please take care of her. She loves you and she needs you." I covered my mouth, shaking my head. "Daniel, don't." "She deserves better than what I gave her," he said, voice cracking. "You were always the better parent, please." That night after he left, I sat awake for hours. The rain tapped against the windows, just like the night everything began. Only now the storm wasn't outside. It was inside me. Was this fate? Was this how our story was supposed to end, me raising the child who once symbolized my husband's betrayal? And yet, I knew my answer. A month later, Daniel was gone, peacefully, quietly, after saying goodbye to all of us. At the funeral, Ella stood beside me, clutching my hand. When the service ended, she looked up and whispered, "Mom says people become stars when they die. Do you think Dad found her?" I squeezed her little hand. "I think they found each other, sweetheart, and they're watching over you now." She smiled softly. And right there, I made a silent promise. I would raise her. I would protect her. Not because of pity or obligation, but because love had finally replaced the pain that once defined us. Years ago, Daniel's secret life had ruined everything. But somehow, life had written its own ending, one I never saw coming. A story of betrayal that became one of forgiveness. A story that began in destruction and ended in love. And as I tucked Ella into bed that night, she whispered sleepily, "Good night, Mom." For a moment, my heart stopped. Then I smiled, brushed her hair back, and whispered, "Good night, my love." 2 weeks after Daniel's funeral, life began to settle into a strange new rhythm. The house was quieter, though laughter still lived in the corners where the children played. Chloe painted more. Liam buried himself in college applications. And Ella, sweet, fragile Ella, was slowly learning to smile again. But at night, when the house went still, I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea, staring out at the dark sky. I often wondered if Daniel and Leela were somewhere out there, two souls finally at peace. One night, as I tucked Ella into bed, she said something that stopped me cold. "Dad told me to give you something," she whispered. My breath caught. "What do you mean?" She climbed out of bed and walked to her backpack. From a small front pocket, she pulled out a sealed white envelope. My name, Sarah, was written in Daniel's unmistakable handwriting. For a moment, I couldn't move. The air in the room thickened. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. "Did he say when I should open it?" I asked. Ella shook her head. "Just that it's for you when your heart's ready." My heart wasn't ready, not even close, but I smiled gently and kissed her forehead. "Thank you, sweetheart. Go to sleep now." When she drifted off, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the letter under the soft lamp glow. The rain had started again, just like the night this whole story began. Finally, I broke the seal. "Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I wanted to say these things in person, but I know I wouldn't have had the courage. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to be remembered kindly. But you deserve to know the truth, not just the pieces you saw, but the parts I was too much of a coward to show you." My eyes blurred as I read, the paper trembling in my hands. When I met Leela, it wasn't about love at first. It was about escape. I was drowning, pressures from work, our marriage, my own insecurities. You were everything strong and good, Sarah. And I hated that I wasn't your equal anymore. I felt small beside you. Leela made me feel seen when I couldn't see myself. But what started as weakness turned into something cruel. I lied to her. I lied to you. And eventually I stopped knowing who I really was. I paused, tears welling. I had imagined hundreds of reasons over the years, but not this. When Ella was born, I was terrified. I loved her instantly, but knew that meant my lie had a heartbeat now. I watched her grow and realized what I'd done wasn't just a mistake. It was a legacy of pain I had handed to everyone I loved. I saw the way you rebuilt yourself after I left. I watched from a distance. And I realized something I never had the courage to say. You were always the love of my life. My breath caught. The words didn't heal, but they cracked something open. When Leela got sick last year, she told me her one wish was that Ella would know love like she did when we were still pretending the world made sense. She told me you were the only person she trusted to give her that. I set the letter down, covering my mouth. So Leela. She had known. She had chosen me. I didn't just call you for help because I was desperate. I called because I knew you'd do what I never could, love Ella without punishing her for my sins. If there's one thing I want to leave behind, it's not regret. It's gratitude. For you. For our children, for the life you carried even after I destroyed it. I'm sorry for every lie, every night you cried because of me. I hope that someday, when you look back, you'll remember not just the man who broke you, but the man who finally understood what he lost. Take care of her, Sarah. She's a part of me, but she deserves to grow up as part of you. Daniel, I sat there for a long time, the letter pressed to my chest, tears streaming silently. It wasn't forgiveness I felt, it was release. A closing chapter. A gentle exhale after years of holding my breath. I looked around the house that once held so much pain and realized something. It was full of life again, full of second chances. The next morning, I took Ella and the kids to the park. The same park where I'd once seen Daniel and Leela together years ago, the place that had shattered me. Now it was peaceful. Ella ran toward the swings, laughing. Chloe followed, chasing her. And for the first time in a long time, the sound didn't ache, it healed. Liam walked beside me, taller now, protective as ever. Glanced at me. "You okay, Mom?" I smiled softly. "Yeah, I think I finally am." That evening, I folded Daniel's letter carefully and placed it in a small wooden box with our old family photos. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that even the deepest wounds can become stories of growth. Before closing the box, I whispered, "I forgive you, Daniel, and I hope, wherever you are, you've forgiven yourself too." Then I turned off the light, walked down the hallway, and peeked into the kids' room. Ella was asleep, curled up between Chloe's arms. A family strange, unexpected, but real. A new chapter born from ashes. Months passed, seasons changed. On a warm spring morning, I found Ella drawing again on the same notepad she used when she first came to live with us. She looked up with a grin. "Look, Mom." This time there were 6 figures. Me, Chloe, Liam, Ella, and 2 stars above. I pointed to them. "Who are they?" She smiled. "That's Dad and Mom. They're watching us from the sky." My throat tightened. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." She tilted her head. "Do you think they're proud?" I took her tiny hand in mine. "I know they are." That night, I sat outside under the stars, the same stars she'd drawn. And for the first time since this story began, I didn't feel broken. Life had taken everything from me once, but somehow, through pain, loss, and forgiveness, it had given me more. Daniel's secret life had ruined everything. But his final truth gave me back what mattered most: peace, purpose, and a new kind of love. It's strange how quiet healing can be. No thunder, no dramatic turning point, just small, ordinary moments that quietly rebuild what was broken. It had been a year since Daniel's death. A year since I found his letter and felt my heart exhale for the first time in forever. The kids were thriving. Liam had started college. Chloe was painting again, and her art had even been displayed at the local gallery. And little Ella, she was 10 now, bright and curious, with a laugh that filled every silent corner of our home. Sometimes I'd watch her run around the garden and think, this is what survival looks like. Not just breathing, living again. But deep down, I knew something else. I wasn't done healing yet. There were still pieces of myself I hadn't faced, dreams I'd buried, fears I'd mistaken for strength. One morning, I decided to revisit the art studio Daniel once built in the backyard. It had been locked for years, first out of anger, then out of avoidance. The key felt cold in my hand as I turned it. The door creaked open, releasing the faint scent of turpentine and dust. Inside were old canvases, unfinished sketches, and the painting he never completed, a portrait of me. Half my face was finished, the other half just rough outlines. I stood there for a long time, my eyes burning. It was like he'd frozen me in a moment of love and guilt all at once. Then something inside me shifted. I took a brush, cleaned the dust, and dipped it into paint for the first time in 15 years. My hands trembled, but I finished what he'd started. I didn't paint perfection. I painted truth, wrinkles, grief, and strength in my eyes. And when I stepped back, I whispered, "This is who I became, Daniel." That evening, I brought the painting into the living room. Ella looked at it and gasped. "Mom, that's beautiful." "It's not beautiful," I said softly, "but it's honest." She grinned. "Then that's even better." Her words stayed with me all night. Maybe that's what life had been trying to teach me all along: honesty, not perfection. A few months later, our small town held a charity art fair. Chloe begged me to display the painting. I refused at first, but something in me, maybe courage, maybe closure, whispered, why not? At the fair, people stopped to look. Some asked if it was self-portraiture. I nodded. One woman, an older artist with silver hair, said, "You've captured something rare, pain that's made peace with itself." I smiled. That's what I was hoping for. As I turned to leave, I bumped into someone, a man with dark eyes and a kind face. "Sorry," I said quickly. He laughed. "No harm done. You're Sarah, right? The one who painted that piece?" I nodded. "Yes." "I'm Adam," he said. "I run the community center across town. We're opening an art program for kids, especially those from difficult homes. Your work, it speaks to that. Would you consider helping us?" I hesitated. "I haven't taught in years," he smiled. "Then maybe it's time you start again." The first day I walked into that art room, it smelled like possibility. Children sat in a circle, painting freely, messy, fearless, unfiltered. One little girl was drawing a rainbow with her fingers. Another was painting her family, stick figures holding hands. For the first time in years, I felt useful, whole. I wasn't the betrayed wife anymore or the woman who'd been broken by secrets. I was someone helping others turn pain into beauty. Adam would often stay after class, cleaning up brushes with me. We talked about everything: art, parenting, grief. He'd lost his wife 3 years earlier to cancer. His gentleness wasn't pity, it was recognition. One evening, as we closed up, he said quietly, "Do you ever feel like life breaks you just to rebuild you differently?" I looked at him and nodded. "Yes, but the rebuilding part, that's the hardest, isn't it?" He smiled softly. "It's also the most beautiful." Weeks turned into months, and our friendship grew slowly, carefully, without pressure. It wasn't romantic at first. It was two people learning to live again. But one night, as we walked to our cars after a long day, he reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. For the first time in a decade, I felt warmth that wasn't heavy with guilt or memory. "Sarah," he said quietly, "I know you've been through hell, but I'd never want to replace what you lost, just be part of what you build next." Tears stung my eyes. "You already are." When I told the kids about Adam, they were cautious but kind. Chloe was the first to smile. "You deserve someone, Mom." Even Liam, usually stoic, said, "If he makes you happy, that's what matters." And Ella, sweet, wise beyond her years, said, "Maybe Dad sent him to make sure you're not alone." That night I looked out the window at the stars, the same stars Ella once said were her parents watching us. I whispered, "Thank you, Daniel, for everything, even the pain that led me here." A year later, I stood at that same lake again. The kids splashed in the water. Adam stood beside me, holding my hand. I felt the sun warm on my face and the wind lift my hair. For the first time in so long, I didn't think about what I'd lost. I thought about what I'd found: peace, family, love that wasn't about filling a void but growing something new. As the sun set, Ella ran up, laughing, holding 2 smooth stones. "Mom, look," she said. "One for you, one for Dad. I'll keep them together." I smiled and took the stones from her. "Perfect, sweetheart." She paused, thoughtful. "You're happy now, right?" I knelt down and hugged her tight. "Yes, baby, I really am." When we got home, I hung the painting, the one I'd finished, above the fireplace. Below it, I placed 2 small stones side by side. And in that quiet, glowing room, surrounded by laughter and love, I finally whispered to myself, "I didn't lose everything. I found myself." Stories end with heartbreak, some with healing. But the rarest ones, the ones that stay with you, end with peace. It had been nearly 2 years since Adam came into our lives. 2 years since laughter had begun to sound normal again. He'd become part of us quietly, like sunlight through an open window, never forcing his place, just filling the spaces where cold once lived. Liam called him the steady one. Chloe called him Mom's peace. And Ella, she simply called him Adam. But the way she said it carried warmth that told me she finally felt safe. We were a family again, not the one I had before, not perfect, but real. It was late autumn, and the first hints of winter had begun to whisper through the trees. The art center was preparing for its annual community showcase, and I was helping the kids hang their work. One of the pieces was Ella's, a painting of 2 hands holding, surrounded by light. When I asked her what it meant, she said, "It's when you find someone who doesn't fix you, they just hold you while you fix yourself." I stared at her, stunned. She had captured what it took me years to learn. That night, as I walked home through a soft drizzle, Adam was waiting on the porch. He was soaked, rain dripping from his hair, his jacket clinging to his shoulders, but he was smiling. "Adam, what on earth are you doing?" I laughed, running up the steps. He grinned. "Waiting for you." "Outside in the rain," he shrugged. "Seemed romantic in my head." I rolled my eyes, laughing, but something in his expression stopped me. He wasn't just smiling, he looked nervous. "Sarah," he said quietly, "come here." I stepped closer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. For a moment, the world went silent, only the sound of rain hitting the wooden porch. "I wasn't sure when to do this," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I didn't want to rush you, and I didn't want to make you choose between the past and what's here now." My heart pounded. "Adam," he opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring, elegant and unassuming, just like him. "I know what you've been through," he said softly. "I know love hasn't been kind to you, but Sarah, it doesn't have to hurt anymore. You've built this beautiful world again, and I just want to walk in it with you. Not to take what Daniel had, but to build something that's yours." Rain dripped from his hair into his eyes, and he laughed nervously. "So, will you let me be part of the rest of your story?" I stared at him, tears blurring my vision. For a long time, I didn't speak. I thought of everything: the betrayal, the nights I cried until morning, the day I opened Daniel's letter, the laughter of my children, Ella's tiny hand in mine, the life I'd rebuilt brick by fragile brick. I thought of how love used to feel like drowning and how now it felt like breathing. Finally, I whispered, "Yes." He laughed, breathless, almost in disbelief. Yeah. Yes, I said louder, smiling through tears. Yes, Adam. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, trembling, careful, reverent. And just like that, the rain no longer felt cold. We stood there under the gray sky, letting it wash over us, two people who had both lost and found their hearts again. He held me close, his voice muffled against my hair. You don't know how long I've waited to see you this happy. I didn't think I'd ever be, I whispered. But you were right. Sometimes life breaks you just to rebuild you differently. He smiled, and better. Later that night, when the kids came home, Ella noticed the ring first. Her eyes widened. Oh my gosh, Mom, did he ask? I nodded. He did. And you said yes. I did. She squealed and threw her arms around me. Chloe joined in, laughing. Even Liam, my quiet, reserved Liam, smiled and hugged Adam, muttering, You've earned it. For a moment, our house overflowed with joy, loud, messy, alive. And I realized something. This wasn't a replacement for the family I lost. It was the continuation of the love that had survived it. A few weeks later, Adam and I decided to have a small ceremony. Nothing grand, just us, the kids, and a handful of close friends. We held it by the lake, the same one where Daniel and I used to take the children. It felt strange at first, standing in the same place where my old life had once felt whole. But when the sunlight hit the water, I realized this wasn't about replacing the past. It was about honoring the journey that led here. As we exchanged vows, I felt a quiet warmth settle over me. Adam said, I don't promise to erase your past. I promise to walk beside it with you. My voice shook as I replied, I don't promise perfection, but I promise truth and peace. When he kissed me, the wind swept through the trees, and for a fleeting moment I could almost feel Daniel and Leela there, watching. Not with sorrow, but with understanding. That evening, after everyone left, I stayed by the lake a little longer. The water shimmered in gold light, rippling gently like memory. I took 2 stones from the shore, one for Daniel, one for Leela, and placed them side by side at the water's edge. Thank you, I whispered. For everything you taught me, for the pain that shaped me, for the daughter who healed me. Then I turned to where Adam and the kids were laughing near the car, and my heart filled with something I hadn't felt in years, peace that didn't need closure. Just presence. That night, as I looked at my reflection in the mirror, the silver ring caught the lamplight. It wasn't a symbol of starting over. It was proof that I'd survived, healed, and learned to love again without losing myself. I whispered to my reflection, this time, I'm not rebuilding what was broken. I'm building what's true. And for the first time in forever, I believed it. There are moments in life that divide everything into before and after. Before Daniel's betrayal, I thought I understood love, trust, and marriage. After it, I understood myself. It had been 3 months since Adam and I married. The house felt fuller now, warm laughter, the smell of Sunday breakfast, music echoing from the kids' rooms. Life was normal again. But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch my reflection and see the woman I used to be, the one who cried herself to sleep, who felt like a ghost in her own home. One evening, I found a small wooden box in my closet, hidden behind old scarves. Inside were pieces of a life that once felt perfect. The silver anniversary frame Daniel had given me, our wedding invitation, a few photos of him holding baby Liam. I hadn't seen them in years. My hands trembled. Not with anger this time, just memory. I sat at my desk, lit a candle, and pulled out a blank page. And then, for the first time in years, I wrote to her, the woman I once was. Dear younger me, you don't know it yet, but your world is about to fall apart. You'll find out that the man you trusted more than anyone was living a life you never knew existed. It'll feel like the ground beneath you vanished, like you're standing on shattered glass, trying not to bleed with every step. You'll think it's your fault. You'll look in the mirror and wonder if you weren't enough, if your laughter, your loyalty, your love somehow fell short. You'll cry until you can't speak. You'll beg for answers that never come, and you'll try to hate him. But love doesn't evaporate just because trust does. You'll have nights where your children sleep in your bed because you can't stand the emptiness beside you. You'll cook dinners for 4 and realize one plate will always be left untouched. But listen carefully, my love, you will survive. You will learn that heartbreak isn't the end, it's the beginning of truth. You'll rebuild yourself, not perfectly, not quickly, but beautifully, piece by piece. You'll meet pain in its rawest form and still somehow wake up every morning determined to heal. That courage will become your armor. And one day someone will look at you and see not the brokenness, but the strength beneath it. He won't ask you to forget. He'll love you because you remember. You'll laugh again. You'll trust again. You'll even dance in the kitchen again. And when you do, you'll realize what Daniel destroyed wasn't your heart. It was your illusion. He didn't break you. He freed you from the version of love that was never real. So forgive him, not because he deserves it, but because you do. Forgive yourself for staying too long, for not seeing it sooner. And then let it go. You are not the betrayal. You are the rebirth. With love and pride, your older self. When I finished, I folded the letter and sealed it in the same box where the old memories lived. Only now it wasn't a tomb, it was a time capsule. I wasn't burying pain anymore, I was honoring it. That night I slept peacefully for the first time in years. No more replaying old conversations, no more ghosts whispering what-ifs. Just quiet, gentle peace. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't reach for the past. I reached for my life. 2 days later, Adam found the letter on my desk. He didn't open it. He just smiled and said, "Looks like you finally made peace with her." I nodded. "I think she finally made peace with me too." He kissed my forehead. "Then you're ready for what comes next." I didn't know what he meant then, but I would soon. The day started like any other, coffee brewing, kids arguing over toast, Adam humming off-key while fixing the curtain rod. Ordinary, beautiful chaos. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. That afternoon, I got a message from a name I never thought I'd see again, Leela. Just seeing it made my stomach tighten. Her message was short. "Sarah, I'm sorry for reaching out. I don't want to reopen wounds. But there's something you should know and something I need to say, face to face." For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But then I remembered the letter, the forgiveness I claimed to have found. So I agreed. We met at a small cafe near the park. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. The confident woman who once shattered my world now looked fragile. Time had changed her too. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. I nodded. "It's been a long time." She hesitated. "I wanted to tell you Daniel passed away last month." The words hit like a quiet echo, not sharp, not heavy, just final. I took a breath. "I see." "I didn't know if you'd want to know," she said, eyes glistening. "But he wanted me to tell you something. Before he died, he asked me to say he was sorry. Not for the affair, though he was, but for never giving you the truth you deserved." Silence hung between us. The sound of cups clinking in the distance felt louder than words. Finally, I said, "I forgave him a long time ago." She looked surprised. "You did?" "Yes, not for him, for me." Tears welled in her eyes. "He loved you, in his own broken way." I nodded. "I know, but love without truth isn't love, it's dependency." Leela wiped her eyes. "He always said you were stronger than anyone he knew. I didn't understand what he meant until now." We sat quietly for a while, two women who once shared the same lie, now sharing something deeper, peace. Before leaving, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo, Daniel holding Ella as a baby. On the back, in his handwriting, were the words, "You gave me the best years of my life. I'm sorry I didn't know how to love you right." I didn't cry. Just smiled gently, finally free. That night I went home, made dinner, and watched the kids laugh around the table. When Adam caught my gaze, I whispered, "He's gone." He nodded, understanding without me explaining. "You okay?" I smiled. For the first time, truly. We walked out onto the porch afterward. The sky was painted in orange and violet streaks, rain clouds fading into light. "It's funny," I said. "The story started with betrayal and ends with peace." Adam wrapped his arm around me. "That's what healing looks like." I looked at the horizon and whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel." And as the wind carried the words away, I knew it wasn't grief anymore. It was release. That night, I wrote one last entry in my journal. I used to believe my life ended the day I learned the truth, but now I see it began there. I lost a husband, but I found myself. And in that rediscovery, I found love that didn't need to hide. I closed the journal, placed it next to my wedding photo with Adam, and turned off the light. Tomorrow would be another ordinary day, and that, finally, was enough.